Morning. Still in my cozy jammies. In much woods as I can be. I'm not really in the woods today. Anyway. Just figured I'd shoot the camera on and say something today. I don't really have any, I never really have anything written or planned to discuss. I just shoot off my mouth, top of my head most of the time. I guess I've written a couple things down over the little time I've been doing this. Oops. I'm gonna talk about not being allowed to talk about things. It's frustrating and it's a conundrum. And it's been something that's been fluent and prominent throughout my life. And I've always had these problems, plague my existence of in elementary school. I was always in detention and stuff like that, always getting in trouble for talking. And then junior high school, they said that I was too much of an influence on the other kids and that I had to leave the school grounds at all lunch times and breaks and stuff like that. And that worked for a bit, but then it was a big hassle for my mom to have to come in, pick me up and take me off property every day. And then so they shoved me into in-school suspension for months, and then they finally put me out of the school permanently and put me into a different school. Anyway, now it's with Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. 2 violations and had videos taken down now. Just over stupid things. I don't ever say things that aren't facts. I could lead you to a conclusion because I love conclusions or whatever, but I'm going to take you there with facts. I hate that shadow that's on me right now. That's what I'm playing with. So I'm going to take you there with fact. I'm going to take you there with known things. You can go and look it up at the CDC or whatever. And even if I was to be wrong about some stupid little thing, it's not like I'm a medical professional that you should listen to like a guru or anything. I'm just a concerned citizen who happens to be very knowledgeable on a lot of subjects. Extremely knowledgeable on a few. And so it's my obligation to share that knowledge. If you found out that your whatever brother-in-law was cheating on your sister or cheating on your brother, who knows? But wouldn't you feel like obligated to tell them? You know, if they were being abused by them and stuff, wouldn't you feel obligated to try to stop the abuse? Wouldn't you want to help your family? So, when a school board does it, or a government, or an official, shouldn't we all just be standing up for one another? Like, isn't it your moral obligation? And your moral obligation when you learn something to tell other people? When I see somebody lying to all of you and manipulating all of you, isn't it my obligation to inform you that you're being manipulated? I think it is. So if somebody says billions of years ago, they might as well be saying once upon a time. That is indoctrinative story time. And you'll hear it from a lot of mainstream scientists because they were little kids when they were attacked just like you were a little kid when you were attacked by these teachers and stuff. And the teachers were attacked when they were little kids as well, to believe this manipulated, slanted truth. And obviously they faked the moon landing, or the moon landing happened, whatever you want to say. There's a lot of controversy around that. But either way, that was the only evidence that would make people of my great-grandparents' generation change their minds. And in that time as well, they had the all those wars, all the world wars, right? And then so they could hide a lot of truth because there was so much death, right? So if you want to go all the way back to Africa, and then like why they were changing Buddy's names, wasn't because it was Kuta Kinte. It was hard to say. They would have just called him Kuta or Kinte or some abbreviated thing. There was a reason that they did that. They took the heritage. They didn't want those people to know and be able to link themselves back to whatever heritage it is that they came from. So they treated them a certain way and separated the families. And you take the mother and father from the kids, and then the kids are raised up by others, and they only know what they're taught. Same as us. We have our kids, and we put them into the school system, and we expect the school system to teach them, but they're only teaching them what they want them to know. They're not going to teach them everything. They want everybody to fit into this little box, and if you don't fit into it, then you got a learning disability. No. If I don't fit into your little box, then you have a teaching disability. If you can't teach me, then it's your inability to do your job, right? If I'm apt as a child and I'm able to understand and learn and comprehend math and science and all these other things, but there's some illogical fallacies that I can't comprehend, then it's not me that has an inability. It's you have the inability to teach to me. So when I tutored people in math and whatnot, I would change the way I taught to each individual person in order to help them grasp the subject better and link it to something in their lives. Right? So I would get to know who I was teaching to a little bit, and then I could teach to them how they could learn. And it just pretty simple shit. If you've got a teaching degree, you should be able to figure out what a high school kid could figure out, but you can't, right? Because your degree taught you to teach a certain way. You're only supposed to teach this way, and if they don't learn this way and in this box and they learn this stuff, then it's them. They're a mess. Don't put them into special classes or do this or do that or whatever. My problem was that I speed read, and so as I'd get reading, once in a while I'd say the wrong word because I'm skipping over all the little words and only looking at the shape of the word, and if it was a word that I was unfamiliar with as a child, obviously I would say the wrong word, because I'm not looking at all the individual letters. I'm looking at the shape and the first and end letters, right? And so they couldn't figure out that that's what I was doing. I had to learn that myself in my 30s when I learned about what speed reading was and figured out how I read, and then taught myself to read better. And so I have to slow down in order to learn the words, and then once I know them, I can speed read through them and make the sentences make sense, just based on my own knowledge and what I'm reading and how the paragraph's going. But what the teachers did, because they didn't know how to teach to that, was they made fun of me, and they'd make me read in front of the class, and then they'd make fun of me in front of all my peers, and everybody'd have a good laugh, and it made me hate reading. That's a teaching disability, and it's actually child abuse, straight up and down. But it just goes to show how broken that system is. And so anyway, I figured out how broken it was as a young child and had to be pushed through it. And now I finally grow up and become an adult, and you're allowed to speak, and you got your freedoms and all this stuff. But you don't really have any of that. That's all an illusion. If you try to really be free, you just end up like me, and you keep losing jobs and getting pushed through and all that kind of stuff. If you have integrity and morals and standards and principles, you got to quit jobs all the time. You can't just go to somebody's house and hide major framing infractions and things like that and rip them off and then leave and, hey, I'll see you later, you know what I mean? You can't live like that. Even before I was Christian. Because I just had standards, I had morals, I had principles. Those were things that I was raised with. Those were the 3 things that my father taught me right there. And it's lacking in our generations. That was lacking in my father. It's probably lacking in me and my actions and stuff like that here and there. Of course it is. Nobody's perfect. But I do my best. I've always done my best, I guess. I love that shadow. Yeah, anyway. Now to be oppressed in my whole speech pattern. I have to dance around what I say, how I think, if I want to express how I feel. Constantly kicked off Facebook and YouTube and all that. Instagram and those places. They're not appealing to my generation, I guess. Or not to me. Instagram is just Facebook, basically. But it does stupid things. Like it'll... it's hard to share a picture just to your timeline without saving it to your phone, going to your timeline and uploading it and going through all these ridiculous steps. There's not just like a share, post. Simple, right? What was wrong with that? What was wrong with the Facebook format? Why'd you have to go to this complicated, stupid format with Instagram? But it's the exact same thing. Anyway, TikTok is... it's just very unappealing. Twitter, again, and it's a lot like Facebook, except you're more limited. You can only have so many characters in your statement. You can't really put pictures with it simply. You can't put stream and make your posts or whatever, and it's just it's even stupider than Instagram or whatever. It's just another down step. So I don't find they're not that great, I guess. So Facebook. So I guess though, even if they were that great and I was on them, I'd be kicked off them, or constantly prohibited from whatever. Because I have an opinion, which doesn't make any sense at all. Everybody's got an opinion, and even if I have the ability to express my opinion in a good way and maybe not manipulate, but have others understand it and comprehend what I'm saying, so then they're likely to at least further investigate or understand and see the light, as it were, or whatever. I don't think that's a bad thing. Now, if it was cultish and I was asking people to like hurt anybody or anything like that, or hurt themselves, that would be a bad thing, obviously. But I'm not a politician. I'm just a guy. I should be entitled to speak. It shouldn't be that scary for me to be able to speak my mind. If it is, then it's because you're a lying scumbag. Right? Like, if you're so scared of my words because they're truth, because they'll help other people to see truth, then what's that make you? Right? You're a you're a weasel, is what you are. And a manipulator and an indoctrinator. And there's a lot of this goes very deep, what I'm speaking about. Obviously it's not just Facebook shooting me off because of what like, come on, who am I? Why would it matter what I say on Facebook so much, or on YouTube so much that they gotta take it down? They're that scared of little old me. You got CNN, NBC, CBS, blah blah blah, blah 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 blah, blah, all that shit. News. You own cable. You're in magazines. You're all over everywhere. Everything that you guys preach is everywhere we see it. So why is it that I can't say my piece without making you guys so uncomfortable and fearful? That should be enough for anybody to just say, oh, wow, he's right. And there's got to be a reason behind that. You don't have that kind of fear over idiocy. You don't see it with Wicca. And there's power to Wicca. But it's not censored. They're tapping into a power of the universe, the same power that we want to tap into as Christians and whatever. It's just that we're going about it in a different route. We're going through the narrow path, and they're going through the easy knowledge. So, but it's the same universal power, same God or universe, whatever you want to call it. That's why, like, they tell you that 13's a horrible number or whatever, but when you look into it, it's one of God's favorite numbers. There's 13 months in the year, 13 moon phases and all that stuff. Like, God likes that number, and it's mentioned in the Book of the Jews a couple times. Not like 7, but it's up there in his priorities. So it's a very powerful number, and it's one that you can manipulate and use, but also God can manipulate and use. So, and God can come through it just as easily as the devil can use it, or, well, way easier, because he's God, it's his, right? So that's why they're scared of that, because it's too easy. So they'll delete the 13th floor and shit like that, because they don't want people touched by God, especially in a building that they're doing satanic ritual in, because there's power in that building, and that power is God's power. Because they're tapping into God's power, they're just doing it in a demonic fashion. So it's the same power. Anyway, I'm going to shut up for today and keep my video short. Maybe it'll upload quick, and maybe I won't get kicked off Facebook for saying something, or YouTube for saying something controversial.